paper boat. A happy and vivacious Smriti lived in the hilly regions of a small town called Dibyale. The whole town knew her since childhood. She was called the wandering butterfly of the town. She was so famous by the name butterfly that people forgot what her real name was. Born and brought up in the most loving environment, she was also an equally emotional person. Since childhood, her favorite season was the rainy season. The reason behind this favoritism was because she could sail innumerable paper boats in the small streams that went down the hill. On every paper boat, she would write a message to an unknown friend who might receive it and read it down the hills. However, by the time she grew up, she almost lost hope that someone could have ever received her message boat. She even thought it was her silly childish thinking and she wanted to give up on that habit. Still, something inside her held her back from giving up. And so, giving it a second thought, she acted more hopeful rather than mature and continued at the task. To quiet her pessimistic beliefs, she told herself that if it wasn't important, God would let her know. Little did she know, she actually had made a paper boat pal in her childhood. In those days, down the hilly regions there was a place inhabited by farmers who would store their crops in the area near the fields to prevent them from floods coming from uphill. In one of these nearby lush green fields, Vishwash worked along with his grandfather. He and his grandfather had made great efforts to divide the flowing streams of water further into small streams by engineering it in a way that lessened the impact of the water. They dug roots to spread to different fields. Ever since his childhood, Vishwas enjoyed going out in the rainy season in these fields and enjoy a swim in these streams. When he got tired, he would sit on the bank of the river stream enjoying the majestic view. On one such eventful day, he came across a paper boat stuck between two boulders in the stream with something written on it. Out of sheer curiosity, he jumped into the stream and pulled the soaked paper boat. He then opened it with great precision, being extra carefully not to tear it apart. Inside the boat, he found a message written with wax colors. It read, "Dear friend, happy rainy season. May we meet one day." Without sailing it any further, he kept the paper boat to himself. The next day it rained again and he found another boat with a message. The next few days, there were no rains and so no boat arrived. He was left a little disappointed. He hadn't realized, but he was looking forward to read the message on that paper boat. For days, he wondered why there were no messages. A few days later it rained again and there was his paper boat. For the next few days it rained daily and he found the boats. He was absolutely overjoyed with the return of the boats, and soon it dawned on him that the boats arrived specifically on rainy days. That day onwards he looked for a paper boat message every time it rained. He found them often. They always wished him health and happiness. He got too happy every time he found them. He could only find out that his unknown friend was a girl because she mentioned her name in one of her messages. He wanted to climb those mountains and meet this paper boat pal someday, but he was too young to look for her. Years passed by and he grew up. In his teenage years, he left the place for higher studies. After 10 long years, he returned to his hometown. When he came back, he was surprised that he still carried the same longing to see his paper boat friend. He realized that he was now a grown-up and able to go and look for his friend. He decided to look for her then. But he was filled with a few doubts despite his resolve. He even wondered if she might have gotten married and left the town by now, and chances were that his visit would be futile. Still, he reasoned with himself that he should at least give it a try. What if she is still there? He thought. Wouldn't he be a big fool to not even try to find her out? Thus, he began his journey upwards the hilltop following the main stream that came down. He knocked every door that fell on the route, to ask for this familiar unknown girl. He showed them one of the paper boats that had her name in her own handwriting. He asked even those whom he met on the way. However, nobody knew who it was. On listening to his story, some people pitied him, some were impressed, and some people thought he was being too naive and sentimental, for they thought it was impossible to find someone with just their name and a letter. Many of them advised him to give up the hunt. His morale went down a bit with their negative replies. On thinking it over again, he decided that he would not give up so soon. He would at least go till the last house on the top before giving up. When he neared the top finally, his hopes dimmed a little. There were only 4 to 5 houses remaining to be checked. He felt tired, exhausted and thirsty. He checked his bottle and realized it was empty by now. And so, he knocked on one of the doors. There was no reply, and so he turned to leave. Splash! The door opened suddenly and he was attacked from behind with a bucket full of water. It was none other than Butterfly. Very late did she realize that she had been clumsy and harmed someone with the muddy water. An embarrassed Butterfly apologized to the now drenched stranger. Butterfly's grandmother saw this drenched boy and invited him inside. And then she instructed Butterfly to serve him some tea. Vishwash stood up to leave after having the tea and snacks served to him by Butterfly. It was late evening by now, and the grandmother urged him to stay for the night as the way back down would be slippery due to the rains and it was even getting dark. Between all this hustle-bustle, Vishwash completely forgot to inquire about his paper boat friend. At night, he was arranged to sleep in the stable between cows and buffaloes, as it was more spacious than their house and, according to grandmother, most adventurous for a tourist because that's what they thought him to be. Vishwash was flabbergasted with the idea of spending the night in the stables, but he couldn't voice his opinion after seeing the kind old woman beaming at him. Still, he thought that people in the hills had a unique concept of hospitality. Even the mosquitoes were doing their job in sync with the residents. At night, while going to sleep, Butterfly thought he won't be able to sleep if attacked by mosquitoes. And so, she went to the stables with some wooden sticks, a blanket, and some warm water. There she found Vishwash was wide awake. Collect a stack of grass from behind while I light the bonfire using these sticks, she ordered Vishwash. He was surprised to see the scaring nature of the fierce girl who had drenched him earlier. She just looks fierce on the outside but seems to be caring, he thought. Together they prepared for him a bonfire. Butterfly had also brought some sweet potatoes to roast on the bonfire. She taught him to roast them too. Together, they roasted the sweet potatoes and relished them. They were finally able to talk to each other comfortably. "You seem to care for that box a lot," Butterfly pointed out. Seeing his puzzled look, she said, "I noticed that even though you left your bag under our care, you brought this box with you and have placed it right beside your pillow." "Yes, it is very near and dear to my heart," he confessed. "Actually, it contains letters from a special friend, in search of whom I came to these hills," Vishwash informed her. In search of a friend. Butterfly was surprised to know that people as silly as her existed in reality. She laughed in her mind. She recalled her own quest for the person who may have received her paper boat messages. For a moment, she even considered the possibility that this stranger could be the friend she was searching for. But then she ruled out the possibility because firstly, he seemed like a tourist, and second, he had mentioned letters and not boats. However, she thought that she should let him know that she was also looking for a friend or friends. She revealed, Like you, I am also waiting for a friend to meet with. But, in my case, I have left everything on God. I believe if we are meant to meet, nothing can stop us because what is meant for you will come to you, no matter what. I just know that whatever will happen will be for our best. Anyways, all the best with your search. They say, one can even find God if he looks for him. Then, how is a person difficult to find? I am sure that you will soon find this friend of yours. She wished him. Thank you, and I wish that you too get to meet your friend as soon as possible, Vishwas wished her back. After thanking him, she wished him good night and stood up to leave. But Vishwas stalled her as he had a lot to say. You know, when I first saw you, I thought of you to be fierce. Butterfly raised her brows at his confession. He smiled. Frankly speaking, I even got a bit scared. But then you and your grandmother treated me so well. It took me by surprise. And now, after talking to you, I don't think I have met such a nice person for a long time. It really felt nice talking to you and confiding in you. You are the first person who did not think of me as fool or naive upon learning about my quest. Butterfly smiled. To be honest, I felt the same way. It was really nice to meet you. Saying those words, she went back to her house. Once he fell asleep underneath the blanket, he had the most blissful sleep. The next day at breakfast, Grandma advised him to visit the nearby tourist sites before leaving. He then revealed to her that he had arrived there to search one of his friends but had failed to find the friend, and so he will be returning soon, as he didn't want to impose on them by staying for too long, and so he left without any hurry. After his departure, Butterfly became depressed and felt as if she had lost a friend. She didn't know why she felt that pain for a stranger. On the other hand, while Vishwas was on his way down the hills, it started raining heavily and he had to take shelter under a tree. While he rummaged his pockets for his cell phone, he realized he had forgotten it at Butterfly's house, and so he went back to fetch it. When he reached outside her house, he found Butterfly seated on her porch writing a message on a paper boat. His eyes lit with hope and surprise, but he waited to confirm his doubts and see what followed. Soon, he saw Butterfly walk towards the flowing water running down the hill. She was completely drenched by the time she reached the water body. Butterfly knelt down and gently sailed the paper boat in the stream. Her gaze followed the boat until it was picked up by a person. She looked up in surprise to find Vishwas with the paper boat in his hands. He gently opened the folded paper and started reading the message on the boat. Dear friend, I miss you. I missed you too. He uttered those words as his lips curved into a smile. Butterfly wondered why he was acting so strange. The next moment, when he took out another paper boat from his front pocket that had the name Smiriti, Butterfly recognized it at once, even from a long distance. A sudden realization dawned upon her and her happiness knew no bounds. The two friends had finally met in the rainy season. Their hopes did not go in vain. They were united and lived happily ever after, and their boats sailed even in the storms.
Thank you for listening to this story. If you like it, kindly subscribe to our channel for more content and stories.